Six Flags Over Texas is the first park opened by the Six Flags chain, and with it being the founding park, I knew I had to go there one day. I did just that 3 times in 1 year, albeit it was 3 years ago, but nonetheless I went multiple times. This video will talk about my ongoing coaster count, general impressions of the collection of roller coasters at Over Texas, and the park in general. If you like what I have to say about this historic park, then make sure to subscribe and stay up to date with all my uploads. That said, my name is Avery, and this is United Coasters. Over Texas was the first park that I had ever visited outside of San Antonio, and this was the second Six Flags park I've ever been to besides Fiesta Texas. With that in mind, I was shocked by the drastic changes in layout and ride collection despite having similar space for both parks, with Fiesta Texas spanning 220 acres and Over Texas having 212 acres of land. I thought the theming of Over Texas was comparably better to Fiesta Texas, but that's because I like how they separated them by different areas in the park. Well, they tried to separate them because Justice League Battle for Metropolis and Aquaman Power Splash are both in the USA section of the park instead of the DC area. Anyway, let's go area by area to talk about the roller coasters, starting with the USA section and going counterclockwise. Pandemonium is the exact clone of the Pandemonium found at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. Although this is a clone, the ride's location gives riders a pretty good view of the coaster skylines because it's in the middle of the park, and you can try to get a good look at it as long as you don't mind spinning out of control the whole time. This Gerstlauer spinning coaster offers fast and fun turns throughout the ride with a mix of surprising dips. It's a better experience when you have an unbalanced car when riding it too. That allows for the wildest ride by far on Pandemonium. Created by RCCA, Judge Roy Scream is smaller compared to the other non-kiddie roller coasters here at this park. This coaster would be a great family coaster and an excellent transitional coaster for younger enthusiasts if it weren't for how janky it is. I only got on this ride once, and I must have gotten a wheel seat because this ride gave me a fight the whole way through. The constant jackhammering and overall jankiness wanted me to get off this ride midway through the layout. Don't get me wrong, I can handle awkward ride profiling from time to time, but this coaster, by far, is the worst I've ridden in terms of comfort. If you want to go the whole day with minimal pain at Over Texas, I would advise you to stay away from this ride until the end of the day. I hope they retrack it, but as of now, this is the worst roller coaster that I've been on. I mean it too, this is the worst roller coaster that I have ever been on. Like, it is the most horrible thing I've ever. Batman the Ride is yet another cloned B&M inverted coaster, and just like its predecessors, it gives off a fast, fierce, and incredible ride. What separates it from the other ones is that long, well-themed queue line. It truly does immerse you into feeling like you're in Gotham. And as I mentioned before, Batman the Ride is a no-brainer on how good it is, so if you haven't been on one of these inverted coasters, you're missing out on a perfectly paced and just overall fun ride. The Joker is a clone of the 4D free spin coaster made by S&S. There's not much I can say about this ride except for that it may be a great coaster for new coaster enthusiasts looking for that next wild ride. I'm not bashing this entirely because this does offer a fun ride for some people, but I tend to avoid them when I can. Next is Mr. Freeze, and I'm going to address what I said in the last video about this coaster before I talk about the ride. It is now known via Six Flags Over Texas' Twitter account that the ride will only temporarily close, and as I said before, it's probably going to run in the future with one of the trains turned around to go forward like Six Flags Magic Mountain did for Superman Escape from Krypton. I hope they make other improvements in that downtime, like better theming inside the queue line. In terms of the ride, Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast is a fantastic roller coaster created by Premier Rides, and a mechanical marvel rolled up all in one, with that switch track loading station allowing 2 trains to run in turns. After launching backward up that inverted top hat and that 218-foot vertical spike, you plunge down going forward to do it all over again. The coolest part for me is on that vertical spike. The gray boxes that line the top area are linear induction motors, or LIMS for short. They are one way to allow coasters to have propelled launches and gain a burst of speed. The crazy thing about this ride is that these limbs fire to make the train rise higher. So when you're on the ride, the train changes momentum halfway through the spike, and it's only then you feel the limbs kick in and give the extra boost to go further up the spike before you fall down. That part, and the fact that this is the best type of shuttle coaster that I've been on, makes Mr. Freeze a must-do. I didn't have the luxury to ride Mini Mine Train, but I'm sure this kiddie coaster made by Aerodynamics creates a good thrill for younger thrill seekers. On the other hand, Mini Mine Train's older brother, Runaway Mine Train, offers a surprisingly good ride with a decently long layout. This Aerodynamics roller coaster combines a great sense of speed, but has some pacing issues due to the 3 lift hills. It makes up for that using the terrain, drops, and multiple tunnel sections. This is a ride that guests may overlook, but I recommend it to anyone who wants to have genuine fun on a roller coaster. Now we'll move on to the tower area of the park, signified by the observation tower modeled after an oil derrick. The only roller coaster in this area is Shockwave, a double looping coaster created by German manufacturer Schwarzkopf that is notorious for getting riders to either gray or black out on the ride. although I have a controversial opinion about that. This ride isn't all that good. I never blacked out on the loops and thought it was just okay. A fun part for me was how the ride dips down inside the go-kart track next to it. It's a pretty cool experience to see the riders of the go-karts whiz past you as you're riding a roller coaster. Overall, I appreciate how the coaster is not just about the famous double loops and has a pretty good layout with some dips and turns after that highlight. The Old South in France section also only has one roller coaster, but it's the coolest one in the park for families. Runaway Mountain is the only conventional roller coaster created by Premier Rides, meaning it has a lift hill rather than a launch. Constructed inside a building, this coaster rides entirely in the dark with some pretty intense G-forces throughout the ride. This coaster gives out a long ride time with such a compact layout because it doubles back on itself multiple times. Also, since this ride is out of the heat, it tends to get the longest wait time in the park. That fact should cement Runaway Mountain as a great coaster at this park. Next, we'll talk about the Texas section of the park with one of the best coasters here, New Texas Giant. This was the first coaster that was converted to a wood and steel hybrid by Rocky Mountain Construction. They outfitted this old coaster with a more prominent drop with a smoother layout. Although this coaster does not offer any inversions, it makes up for it with a litany of airtime, an extreme 95-degree overbank turn, and 3 back-to-back tunnels for the finale. New Texas Giant's placement in the park makes it virtually isolated, making it look like the tallest and longest ride in the park, even though it's not. There's not that much of a theme, but there is something pretty funny when you get to the end of the queue line. Upon opening the gates to board the ride, if any member of your party has second thoughts about riding, they can cross over the train and enter a place called the Chicken Coop. And it makes a lot of chicken noises, because they're chicken. Nevertheless, I strongly recommend that you ride this coaster that made RMC a household name in the coaster world. The second to last coaster in this park is my personal favorite, Titan. Made by defunct ride manufacturer Giovanola, Titan is their second US roller coaster and overall last coaster ever created by them. Although there is an almost exact clone of the ride at Six Flags Magic Mountain called Goliath, what separates the two is that Titan has 2 helixes compared to Goliath that only has 1. After cresting the 245-foot lift hill, you descend a 255-foot drop into a tunnel at 85 miles per hour. This ride lacks any notable moments of airtime, but it makes up for that in speed. At the time of attending this park, this was my tallest, and to this day, this is still my fastest roller coaster that I've been on. And you can feel that speed, especially on those helixes. When entering that first helix, it feels like someone's pushing your head to look down the entire time. The positive G-forces were so intense that I actually grayed out on the first helix. The only downside for Titan is that mid-course brake run. When the brakes hit, it hits, and it slows the train down to almost stopping. I guess that's okay though, because the ride does build up speed afterward, but still, I would love to go on this ride trimless one day. The last roller coaster at this park is a historic wonder located in the Mexico and Spain section. La Vibora is an intimate bobsled coaster. These coasters are rare because they're not made that much anymore, with the most recent bobsled coaster opening up only in 2018 at Knoebels named Flying Turns. La Vibora opened in 1986, and you can feel the age in those 36 years. I rode this ride with my brother, and due to the seats on the train, we had to sit in front of each other. After going up that half-a-minute long lift hill, you then begin your winding way downhill. La Vibora's track resembles a snake weaving back and forth as you go through the layout. The smooth parts of the ride are when the track goes away and you're just gliding on wood. You only feel discomfort when the ride funnels into one of the 3 trim brakes. I felt the need to slightly pick myself up out of the seat to alleviate the pain during the transitions, but other than that, I had some moments of fun on this ride. I suggest you ride this ride only for the credit or if you have kids. Honestly, it's more fun watching La Vibora rather than riding it. Despite some roller coasters needing to be retracked and some theming improvements, I enjoyed my ride experience at Six Flags Over Texas overall. I cannot recommend this park enough, and just for the roller coaster collection alone, you should be here. This park seems to have something for everyone, from roller coasters to flat rides to shows, and I plan on returning to Six Flags Over Texas to review Aquaman Power Splash and the alteration to Mr. Freeze Reverse Blast. So make sure to subscribe to see that and more. I'm on the hunt for 1,000 subscribers, so being a part of that and liking this video is greatly appreciated and helps my channel grow. As a little incentive, I plan on doing a face reveal when I hit 1,000. Lastly, I just want to say thank you and remember to stay united.